work at a golf course, there are several tasks and situations that will require you to use respiratory protection to protect yourself from airborne contaminants. A variety of different types of face masks and respirators may be used to protect you. Gas, mists, and fumes from hazardous chemicals are all contaminants that may be present at your golf course at times. Even solid surfaces can become hazardous when welded or ground. If exposed to these respiratory hazards, you could become sick or even die. The effects could be instant or they could take years to make you sick, as is the case with asbestos, which can lead to lung cancer. It's important that you know when to use respiratory protection. Some of the tasks that require the use of respiratory protection are welding, cutting, or brazing any surface coated with lead-based paint, cutting concrete, sandblasting, exposure to vapors from paints or cleaning solvents, coatings, spraying or mixing pesticides. If you're not sure whether a particular task requires respiratory protection, always check with your supervisor. Keep in mind that not every type of respiratory protection will protect you from every hazard, so make sure you know the type of protection you need for the task. You also need to be trained on worksite-specific respiratory protection, and general respiratory protection training should be given annually. If you have not been trained on respiratory protection, you need to avoid any situation where respiratory protection is needed. Now, let's talk about how to use respiratory protection. As with any other type of personal protective equipment, it's not effective unless it's used correctly, which is why we'll cover how to properly inspect, use, and discard respirators. Remember, they cannot protect you if you don't use them properly. Every respirator comes with its own manufacturer's instructions, which should be your first source of information. Always make sure that you read and understand the instructions before using a respirator. The methods discussed in this video are general guidelines, but you should always refer to the manufacturer's instructions first. There are a few steps that must be taken after putting the respirator on, but before using it. First, you should inspect the respirator for damages and perform fit tests and seal checks. These tests ensure that the respirators fit correctly and that you're properly protected from airborne contaminants. You must also know how to properly don and doff, or put on and take off the respirator. Fit tests should also be performed before wearing a respirator for the first time, as well as once a year thereafter. To perform a fit test, you use a test agent or instrument to verify that the respirator fits. The test should be repeated annually. If you've already performed a fit test for a particular respirator within the last year, you're ready to put it on and conduct a seal check. This is how you verify that the respirator has been properly positioned on your face to ensure a proper seal. Remember, a seal check should be performed every time you put a mask on. That means if you remove the device even for a few minutes, you need to perform another seal check once you put it back on. No matter how many times you use a respirator, you must always do a seal check. And you can never use a respirator that does not pass the seal check. There are two different types of seal checks that you must perform: a positive pressure seal check and a negative pressure seal check. The way to inspect, don and doff, or put on and take off, as well as how to perform a seal check, varies by the type of mask. So we'll discuss the steps for each type of respirator separately. First, let's go over the use of half face piece elastomeric respirators, which are also referred to as half masks. Your first step when using this type of respirator will be to inspect it. Check the mask, straps, valves, and gaskets. Make sure that nothing is damaged or missing. If you do find damaged or missing parts, replace it for one that isn't damaged. Next, it's time to don or put on the face mask. Pull the bottom strap and place it over your head. The face piece should cover your nose and your chin, and the narrowest part of the mask should be over your nose. Then, take the harness and hold it over the crown of your head and adjust it to a stable and comfortable position. The strap should then be placed flat over the back of your neck. If it doesn't feel stable, adjust the straps to ensure that the mask fits snug over your face. Next, it's time to perform your seal checks. To perform a positive pressure seal check, place the palm of your hand over the exhalation valve outlet. Be careful not to distort the shape of the face piece. Next, exhale gently and then hold your breath. This will create positive pressure within the mask. Pay close attention to the edges of the mask. Do the edges separate from your face at all? Are there any air leaks? If the answer to either of these questions is yes, the mask did not pass the seal check and needs to be readjusted and then tested again. Next, perform a negative pressure seal check. To do this, Use the palms of your hands to cover the respirator cartridges or filters, then inhale. The mask should slightly collapse and pull closer to your face. If it does not, the mask and straps need to be adjusted and readjusted until a proper seal is achieved. Remember, the mask should collapse slightly and pull closer to your face when you inhale. Another way to determine if there are any air leaks is by exhaling to see if you feel air blowing through the seal and onto your face. Only if the mask passes both seal checks may it be used. If after adjusting the mask several times you still can't achieve a proper seal, speak to your supervisor about what the problem may be. If the mask did pass the seal checks, you may proceed to use it. Once you've finished using the respirator, carefully take it off by loosening the straps around your head and neck. Be sure to avoid touching the filters or cartridges. Then, follow your club's maintenance, cleaning, disinfecting, and storage guidelines. Next, we'll go over the use and instructions for a disposable filtering facepiece respirator, also referred to as a dust mask or an N95. Yes, these are considered respirators, and you have to go through the same steps as other respirators. Following the manufacturer's instructions, remove the mask from the container and unfold it if necessary. The first thing you should do is inspect the respirator. Check the mask and straps for any type of damage. If the mask has any type of visible damage, it should be disposed of. If the respirator is clear of any damage, you can proceed to put the respirator on. Use one hand to place the respirator over your nose and mouth, keeping the nose piece at your fingertips. Note that the nose piece should cover the bridge of your nose and the respirator should be positioned to cup your chin. While holding the mask, allow the bands to hang freely in front of the mask. While still holding the mask in place, pull the top strap over your head and position it high on the back of your neck. Next, secure the bottom strap. Bring it over your head and position it around your neck and below your ears while making sure that the straps do not crisscross. If the mask shifted positions as you put the straps on, move it back to its original position and make sure that your nose and mouth are covered. Some masks have metal nose pieces or strips. If yours does, use both of your hands to mold the metal piece to fit the shape of your nose. Use your fingertips to push the metal piece inward while moving your fingers down and then up the sides of your nose. Next, consult the manufacturer's manual to determine how to perform a seal check. Most N95 respirator seal checks are done by cupping the face piece and then exhaling to see if the piece bulges or by inhaling to see if the piece collapses. If no air leaks from the sides of the face piece, then a proper seal has been made. However, if any air does leak, it'll need to be adjusted until no air leaks and both positive and negative pressure seal checks have been passed. Once the respirator passes the seal test, you're good to go. Once you've finished, make sure you remove the mask carefully and avoid touching the exterior. This is because the exterior area of the mask may be contaminated. Finally, dispose of the mask following your company's procedures. No matter what type of respiratory protection you're using, you should never take it off while you're inside of a hazardous area. Remember, it's up to you to stay safe at work. Simply using personal protective equipment, like respiratory protection, isn't enough. You need to know how and when to use it. If you're ever unsure, please check with your supervisor.